Welcome to today's webinar. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Andreas Betcher, and I'm sitting here with the great Joseph McClendon III, Tony Robbins Master Trainer, which we are going to get to in just a moment. I know you've got some golden bombs.
Well, yes, I call them that, yes.
Yeah, we're going to be sharing a lot of information with you on how to help you to improve your speaking success. And in case you and I have not met, I'm the founder of Amplify Your Talk on how to create a trademark talk that both serves and sells, turning audiences from interested to invested on the spot. And we had the great fortune of meeting through one of my favorite tools in using speaking, which we're going to break down in depth. Now, before we get into all the heavy lifting and the content and the things that we're going to be sharing, I do want to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. We want to make sure that, number one, that you bring the state and the energy and the attention to this live training, because I promise you that it can dramatically and will dramatically improve your speaking success to what I call to help you to command any room, anytime, anywhere. And I want you to be thinking about yourself through this entire presentation and give yourself this gift of undivided attention. As my friend and mentor Brian Tracy states, there's no such thing as multitasking, only temporary distraction from the task that's at hand. And so over the next 60 minutes, we're going to be sharing with you some of the ins and outs on presentation success, on how to engage an audience, how to enroll the audience, how to anchor the stage and yourself and the transformation that you provide, and deliver and develop your content in a way that invites pursuit and allows your audiences to go from what I call the jacuzzi experience, where it feels good for a little while, to actually moving forward through the desired action that you want to be able to take. Now, also make sure that you stay to the end. It's very important that you do stay to the end, because we have a very special gift that I'll reveal at the end of our time here together in the time that we have allotted. And I know your time is valuable, so it's time to roll up our sleeves and get started. Now, I know the audience may be wondering, they may or may not have heard of you, and I know I've personally seen you, and he's been a mentor of mine for years. He just doesn't know it. I happened to be at Unleash the Power Within, a Tony Robbins event, walking on coals, and he was there leading the event. And you can imagine, just for a moment, filling the shoes of Tony Robbins on being able to help him to catapult his message and entrusting his audience with a man like Joseph is truly transformational in and of itself, and a tremendous opportunity. So I know the audience is probably wondering, how did you actually get started and build your speaking platform and career?
Well, first things first, I want to give it to you, because as you guys just saw, this man is a master, and I'm here to learn from him as well. We haven't known each other long, but you are one of my mentors and soon to be one of my teachers as we go to learn this as well. So I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, and we're kindred spirits.
Absolutely.
The reality is, I came into this field, if you will, quite by accident.
Yeah.
I'm a psychologist by trade or by profession, and I had a great practice in Los Angeles for many, many years. And at one point in my life, without going into it, I had a very, very low point in my life. And I went to a seminar. I was suggested I go to this seminar. I didn't even know who the guy was. And this is back in the olden days, Doctor. This was 19... Isn't it funny how when we say 19 anything, it sounds ancient anymore?
It does, right?
But I think this was like 1985 or 86. And I went to the seminar, and obviously it was our friend Anthony Robbins, Tony Robbins. And I was there, and I watched this man not just command the audience, but get people to move and take action, self included.
Yes.
But take action on doing something to change their lives right there in the moment. And I was hooked, and I just thought to myself, wow, this is, because I love what I do, working one-on-one with people. But I thought, this is amazing, and to be able to impact and influence more than one person at a time. And very long story short, we became friends, started working together, and I started doing a lot of the physical or emotional challenges and phobias and things for that organization for many years. And then I decided I wanted to write my first book. And I didn't want to just write it with anybody. I wanted to write it with Tony. So we agreed to do this. And part of my agreement or his agreement and my agreement to do this together was that I would become the head trainer for Robbins Research. And I would train the trainers and work with them. And it was a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
And so I had no intention or any idea of being on stage. So I would work with the trainers, and I would do some training online or on stage. But fate had it one day, it was in Australia, I'll never forget it, when I got a phone call. It was Sunday night, which was the third day of the same seminar that you went to, the UPW. And the fourth day, Tony is not there. The fourth day is a health seminar, and there's a beautiful woman that used to teach it, but something happened, and she couldn't leave the U.S.
Right.
So I got the call Sunday night that we need you to be on stage and teach this material tomorrow morning.
Wow.
And so after freaking out, I said, you know what?
I can't imagine why.
Yeah, I can do this. I think there were maybe 2,500 people, which at the time, that was a pretty good size audience.
Just 2,500.
Yeah. And so it was by accident. I stepped up. I studied all night long, stepped up, and that started once I started doing it, I didn't have such a great experience. I'll share that here in a moment. But I was hooked because I got it that this is a way to give back. This is a way to impact many, many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a tremendous honor to be able to do that. And I'm sure you pulled it off. And I want to ask, because the question that remains for me is thinking about taking the platform in such a situation where the moment is brief and the impact is high, which is always in the case of speaking, that what was it that allowed you to be able to push through? I can imagine the fear, maybe uncertainty, maybe even doubt. What was it? Because I know a lot of our audience that follows the work that I do are working on how to get out there with their message, and often it's that fear and doubt that holds them back. What advice do you have for them?
Well, as you know, I always say to people, when you hit the stage, when you're on stage and you start to open your mouth, everything goes away except for what you've prepared to do. And I don't just mean the preparation of knowing your material and so on and so forth, the preparation of you as a person. Because a presentation, as you were alluding to earlier, is not just so that you're getting up there and talking. You want people to move and do something.
Exactly.
So my best advice is preparation, training, get your mentoring, get all of that stuff in so that you can practice, so that you can work that stuff, so that when you hit the stage, it happens naturally, just like driving a car or riding a bicycle.
Right. It's a system. It's a formula.
Absolutely.
And like all systems and all formulas, speaking is a skill, and skills are learnable when you follow a proven structure.
Absolutely.
Which actually brings me to my next question, which is, what is your most embarrassing moment? I know I can think of one for myself, but I'm curious for you, what's been your most embarrassing moment from the platform?
Ironically, my greatest moment was my most embarrassing moment, the moment that I just told you about, when, and I've had several, trust me, but that one, when I got on stage, I was prepared. And Doc, I was ready to go. And I'd seen the presentation by this woman several times, and I'd studied all night long, and I was pumped up. Yes, I was afraid. Yes, I was going through all that stuff and everything, but I knew how to put myself in state. I got out on stage, and I expected to walk out there to a smattering of applause and people just adoring me and all those things, and it was just the opposite. Because to his credit, people fall in love with Tony Robbins.
Of course.
And he's been with them for 3 days, and he's taken them on these emotional highs and lows and all these things and changed their lives. And he's amazing at what he does. One of the most amazing I've ever seen. And what I didn't realize was he didn't tell them that he wasn't going to be there the next day. He didn't tell them that I was going to be there. So I walked out on stage, and by the way, there was nobody really to announce me. I walked out there, and the energy just died, and people were looking at me like, who's this guy? I always jokingly say they were expecting a 6'7" white guy, and now they have a 5'9" black guy, you know. And they were looking at me, and they were literally not booing me, but just this side of it. Where's Tony? And in that moment, and it was, I don't want to use the word devastating, but it was just this side of devastating to me, because I was expecting more, and I didn't know what to do. And in that moment, what you just asked me, I had to go back to what I rehearsed. And it was a learning experience. And I did pull it off, you know, and then from there, at the end, they loved me, you know, all the things. But that was probably the most embarrassing time, because you're up there alone. By
you're
yourself.
Up there, no introduction whatsoever, no edification from any previous speaker. That basically one of the rules in speaking is to be able to hand off the baton, if you will, so that the audience can have some elevated form of know, like, and trust, which is so important. So how did you turn the audience from cold to hot in that brief moment when you were put in that situation?
Again, what I had prepared to do was to center myself, was to go to a place that I knew to be.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I teach, and that is this, as you know, just like we're having a conversation here, everybody talks to people, everybody presents all the time. So to be able to put yourself back in that space which is what I had to do, was go in that space and go, you know what, it's me, and I'm just going to talk to these people. And I loved them.
Yes.
And I went back to now the things that I teach and honed down, and it was trial and error, trust me.
Right.
But I went back to those things that I knew to do of how to impact these people and move them emotionally along a path.
Right.
And that's what changed everything. And it turned around fairly quickly.
Yeah. I mean, that's phenomenal. And I want to just emphasize a key point here, the moment of impact, where this moment was brief, that you were able to transform this opportunity into what's now become a platform that is worldwide. Can you give the audience a sense of how many people you've spoken to, how many presentations you've now done since that moment?
I don't know the answer to the last question with regard to how many, but I speak every month at least twice. At least twice. Matter of fact, my schedule goes that throughout the year, and I'm pretty much booked through the rest of this year, I will do one international or extended day event, anywhere from 5 to 8 days a month. And then I do 2 or 3 keynotes or smaller events, that kind of thing. And through the years, we kind of added it up, estimate, if you will.
Yeah,
but over the last quarter of a century now, well over 4.5 million people.
4.5 million people, 25 years of experience. I'm in awe. I mean, really, you know, that kind of experience, and that's why I'm so excited about this training, because you've taken now all of that experience and you've created some phenomenal programs that we're going to actually dive into a bit here in this webinar here, one being the PFactor and one being the effectiveness factor. And so what I want to do is take some of the elements in here. I've got some of my notes here. I feel like I'm in a newsroom here. And this is actually so much fun, and because it's such a unique opportunity. That's why I was so excited to share this gift with you. And being a physician, you know, of course, I love the words and the phrases that come with anything related to anatomy. And here you talk about the anatomy of the presentation. Can you give us a sense, or the audience a sense, of what you actually mean by that? Because I know this is a core component of the P-factor.
There's 2 elements of that. Number one is there's always got to be a beginning, there's always got to be a middle, and then there's always got to be an end.
Right.
And if I was to distill it down to its simplest forms, which, by the way, that's the way I roll, is to try and make it as simple as possible, because
keep it simple.
I've found that if you complicate it too much, people go into their heads, and even myself, I mean, I go into my head and I start thinking this and so on over, but if I make it simple and I have these steps, and so one of them is your beginning, middle, and end, and what you do, and I say there's 3 things: what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. Okay, and those elements, and knowing those, again, rehearsal and preparation, knowing what they are, those make up the anatomy, as well as something that I call an influence model, which is a journey from the time that you decide to do the event. See, most people say, okay, they focus on the event. I focus on from the time that you decide that you're going to do that event. You've got to have something going on in your head about how that thing is going to, how it's going to roll, and how you're going to walk off that stage. It's, you know, for me, I'm a psychologist, so I like to make sure that we're steady here, so that when we perform, so that when we're out there, we don't have to put it in our heads. So an influence model, again, and this anatomy is how to take your audience, not just from point A to point B, but take them on a journey through this whole process where they get to feel, and these are the key words, me too. Not just so what, not just so, hey, I'm watching this guy speak and I'm just learning some stuff and this is great, but they're in the experience. And while they're in that experience, then they're on that journey. And so with regard to the anatomy, it's those 2 things, with regard to the setup of how that thing looks, and with regard to this journey that we're going to take them on.
I like that a lot on different fronts, because you can use that formula from what, how, and when, being those 3 key components, and you can translate that into any opportunity. Of course, we're talking about the big stage, but even for you as the entrepreneur, I'm even thinking about your local BNI event, at your local chamber, or, you know, creating your own events, your own workshops, or, you know, or at your church, or wherever you have the opportunity to share your message, is to be thinking about that journey. And it's not linear, is what I'm hearing you saying, right?
It's got to have peaks and valleys. It's got to go up and down. And Doc, I always say this, and again, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. I'm telling this guy that is the master.
I'm taking notes.
Is that it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're talking one-on-one, you just said it, whether you're talking one-on-one to your son, your daughter, or you're trying to get that date with that special person, or you're talking to 10 people or 50,000 people, it's always still a conversation, and there's always still an anatomy and a path to go. And if you know what that is, and it's inside your nervous system or inside your soul, if you will, and that's when it becomes natural. And you don't have to think about it. You don't have to, where am I here?
And that's the power of following a framework, because what I'm hearing you saying is and really the key to engaging and enrolling the audience is to not make it a monologue. Right? Here's how cool I am and how cool you wish you could be if you could only sound like me. Right? Versus where I'm a guide by the side. I just happen to be the one in front of the room. I just happen to be the one on this side of the lens having a conversation. But if we just talk like this the whole way, you'd be bored out of your mind.
And I've seen it, and it's ugly.
And I've done it, and it's been ugly.
I have too.
So now let's transition for a moment as we move into how to utilize and work the room. And one of the things that I admire about you and Tony Robbins, of course, is the ability to master and command a room for hours at a time. How can the average Joe, the average entrepreneur, the average Jane out there, if you will,
cover all the bases.
Got to cover all the bases. That's called enrolling the audience. You want to make sure everyone is included. Right?
By the way, you're seeing this all in action right now.
You're seeing it all in action. That's exactly it. So what are some of your keys on how to maximize the effectiveness of stage presence? Well,
stage presence, again, is a result of, you've said this a dozen times, it's a framework. It's something that, I want to go back to something you said, Doc, which is absolutely brilliant. It's something that I live, and that is this, that it's really easy for people to look at somebody like yourself or me and go, that guy's a natural on stage.
Oh, man.
And that guy, he's really got talent and so on and so forth. But I didn't, and I came from a place that, as I shared with you before, I was making it up as I went along and scared and all those things. And as you said before, presenting is a skill, and any skill can be learned.
That's right.
So with regard to commanding an audience, it really is something that I teach, something called marking your audience. It's mechanical. It really is. I call this emotional mechanics, and everything that we do, there's an A, B, C, D. If you know what they are, and you've rehearsed them, you've worked with them, you've learned them, then they become natural. And there is a very specific way from the time that you walk on stage. I always say this to people. Every single word that I say and every place that I step and every place that I move has been calculated. Now it becomes natural to me now because I've done it so many times. But it's calculated so that in the beginning it might feel mechanical and it might feel contrived, but they don't know. They're just getting the experience if you're doing all of these things. So a way of what I call marking the audience is how to ignite just a few people in the audience with your energy, at the risk of sounding too cosmic, if you will, with your energy, so that person is lighting up the room and giving them that attention. So everybody around, and I find specific people in the audience, one of the things that we teach, and it's like magic to me, because you can experience their energy coming back to you very, very, very quickly. And then they're along for the ride, and that is why you said it before. I do keynote speeches, but then as you've experienced in my own workshops and at when I work with other people as well, I'm on stage from sometimes 16 hours. When I work with Tony, there's times we start.
You go to 3 or 4 in the morning. I've been there. Yes.
And so having the energy to do that, but then also being able to keep those people in that seat and not wanting to leave, not afraid to leave, but not wanting to leave on the edge of their seats.
Yeah, that's such a powerful technique, is you can start to make an audience of any size. I've spoken to audiences as big as 4,500, where you can still mark particular individuals throughout the room where you can see. Where you connect and have that eye contact. And the larger the room, the more powerful it becomes, because as you're looking into the distance at that one person, everyone that's around that vicinity feels that they're being talked to directly.
They're engaged, and they all want to be that as well. And you said something earlier. It's different than people sitting in the audience and going, that guy's great, and I wish I could be like that, which happens. as opposed to somebody sitting in the audience and going, I'm part of this. And yes, I'm not only getting this, I feel this, and I want more.
Right.
And that's critical. That's critical, because a presentation must lead to some sort of activity and some sort of way to influence those people to do something.
Oh, well, that's my favorite topic, is helping to move audiences forward into action. You know, and I love how you said that, because when I think about my speaking career, it actually began in my little 1,400 square foot hole in the wall office when I was frustrated because I couldn't get any patients in the door. So I decided to throw together a workshop, and that was the easy part, but what I didn't realize is I was not a speaker, and I had no formal training. I wasn't wearing a jacket. My embarrassing moment, I had pit stains down to my waist.
Yeah, been there.
Couldn't hide it, sweating profusely, and the audience can feel it. And I know one of the things I teach is that if you're ever speaking, you always have to address the elephant in the room. Whether that's audiovisual technical problems, or whether it's a child,
it's you.
And in this case, I was the elephant in the room, and so I had to stop the talk cold and actually embrace the moment. And I'll give you a nugget real quick here, is that take that moment and embrace it. Because they'll admire you for just stepping up to the mic.
Because you're being human.
You're being human. And I said, hey, look, obviously I'm not a public speaker. I can't hide it. I'm embarrassed beyond belief. But my passion for helping this community express their natural ability to be healthy from the inside out far supersedes my fear. If you can bear with me not being a polished speaker, know that I'm fumbling around with my words a little bit, but know that my genuine ability to be able to help this community is far greater than that fear. Could I count on your support?
And what he just did there, absolutely brilliant, because what people do is now the perspiration stains, that's gone out of their mind, and now they're falling in love with this person and this message, and they have empathy.
That's it.
Everybody's been there. And when you create that emotion, you got them, you know.
You got them.
And you can move them.
And that was the beautiful part. I mean, they relaxed, I relaxed. I was able to deliver the presentation. I was able to, had 5 guests in there at that time. 3 of them came in, and all of them accepted care.
Oh, spectacular.
You know, and from that moment, that's how my speaking started. Fumbling, bumbling, sweat-filled. You know,
and when you have those experiences and you get it, it's like that. Those times, as you're saying right now, that locks into your nervous system, and you get an aha moment where you go, "Oh, now I know how to use this," and it comes more natural.
Exactly, and you have to get out there with your message. Don't be afraid to fail. And there is no failure in speaking, just only lessons, just like anything, right? So. Now, let's take a moment. I actually want to share with some videos on some of the powerful training of clients that you have worked with, just so you can hear from others the transformational experience that they have had in learning how to maximize the PFactor. So let's watch that for just a moment.
I'm Dr. David Mata, and I found this course incredibly helpful to me. It was transformative. It helped me focus on my message, make it effective, and Joseph's thoughts on the syntax and how to deliver it. It transformed my whole message. It tied my story to my business, and I can't think of anything better to be done for me. I would highly recommend this for any person who wants to improve their speech and make it effective, to connect with the audience and get their message across. So it's highly recommended. I love this. I want to do this again.
My aha moment was when I saw live Joseph McClendon on stage. He's unbelievable, and just watching him, you're receiving so much energy, and you're learning so much just at watching him. And the second thing was practicing. Like, we were here and we did practice with everybody else. Everybody else gave us some ideas or some suggestion how we could improve. So it's unbelievable how much in 2 days you could learn, and now we just have to go back and practice at home.
When I go to workshop, usually we have aha moments, something that you take and you said, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow, and that's how I'm going to start. But I have a problem. The problem is every moment here I had an aha moment. We receive so much information and so much content that I feel that I need for the next few days just go over my notes over and over and over again and start changing my life and transforming my life.
It has been a very good summary and a clear, succinct way of presenting that I have learned. And here, this comes from somebody who's been a seminar junkie for years. I've probably been to about 500 seminars, and I'm going to rate this at somewhere as right on top. You want to learn how to present? This is the place to be. This is the place to go. And I don't think it'll get any better than this.
I was on the fence whether or not I wanted to be a speaker. And after this class, oh my gosh, it has been absolutely awestruck at the presentation that Joseph did. He was absolutely fantastic. I am not on the fence anymore. I know I am a speaker. I know I can do this. It was great. Anybody who's on the fence or who wants to be a speaker, they need to be in this course.
All right, welcome back. Now, of course, here with Joseph again and sharing some incredible nuggets, and we're going to continue to move forward with some of the key components out of your PFactor program. And one of the things that is coming up for me that I want to be able to share with the audience that might be asking their questions on, because I've often always taught to focus on how to create one trademark talk. What is it that you want to be known for? And what is it that you find effective to be able to help our entrepreneurs that are out there speaking and growing their message in terms of how to structure and create their content? Do you have some secrets to help shortcut that process?
I do. I'm not sure if I can call them secrets because I share them. However, you know, you said this before I love what you just did with regard to when you had the sweat stains you're going through, and you expressed your passion for what you're doing. So one of the secrets, one of the key things is I tell people, don't talk about something that you're not interested in.
Right.
You know, if you're going to go out there and just be a salesperson or whatever, or if you are going to be a salesperson and sell something, find a way to be passionate about what you are. And we know this as creating that state.
Right.
In other words, to figure out exactly what your message is.
Yes.
And then get passionate about it. And then take that passion and through the methods, transfer that passion from you into your audience as well.
Right.
So I would say passion, passion, passion first. It's not just interest, it's a way of, and again, it's a skill of being able to cause yourself, create passion within yourself about anything. So I help people all the time decide what their topic is. Sometimes people will come to our event and they'll go, well, I want to talk about this.
Right.
And I can tell right now, just through the process of finding out why you're doing this and what's your outcome for so on and so forth, you might be better served at finding something else and helping them find out what their passion is.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's such a key component because how on earth can you expect to move an audience forward if you're not moved yourself?
Exactly.
That is paramount, you know, and so even though I teach others how to go out and sell their programs, products, and services using their voice and their message, if you're not passionate behind it, there's nothing that I can teach them that'll make a difference.
And here's the cool part, Doc, is that passion is just an emotion.
Yes.
And all emotions can be manufactured and created.
Right.
So I say this to people that they say, well, you know what? I'm not here to necessarily go out and do, you know, this keynote speech is going to move the world and so on and so forth. I work for a company, and this company has me speaking and doing this and so on and so forth.
Right.
Well, there's a way to manufacture passion for that as well, and at a higher level than you would if you're disinterested, if you will. And again, that is what transmits into your audience.
So let me ask you, I know Tony is so huge on getting in state, right, before we do anything. What are some of the things that you do to put yourself in state to make sure that your passion comes across? Because look, let's just be honest. We have challenges in our life, just like anyone else, and some days we're up and some days we're on, some days we're off. But that's not acceptable when you have an audience.
Exactly, yeah.
So what is it that you do in your routine before you take the mic to make sure that you're delivering your A game?
Three things only. It's a conversation in here, it's a movement with my body, and it's something that I'm seeing. And it's very specific with me, and I always say to people, it's going to be specific to you. In other words, you've got to create those three elements for yourself.
Right.
In other words, and I have a belief, and the belief is everything goes away when I walk on this stage. Anything that has happened before or that will happen in the future goes away. When I hit the stage, I'm right there in the moment.
Right.
And in order to do that, that requires a, as you call it, state, mindset, if you will, physiology, if you will.
Right.
And that comes from the thought process, which is just, I always say that the thinking is just making images and talking to yourself. That's it.
That's it.
Simply put.
Yeah.
And so if you have a set thing, which is what we teach people to do, have your own very specific pre-event warm-up, for lack of a better term, to put yourself in that state, to put yourself in the passionate state, and then in another state, which is going to be what I call your stage state.
Right.
Then once you do that, when you step on the stage, you're that woman, that man, that person,
right,
and that you know you can be, that's going to move those people.
Yeah, and that's such a key critical component, because what I love about what you're saying, which I resonate with so much, is that it's never about you. It's always about the audience, and what you're wanting to do is transcend that communication that's already occurring in their mind. And when you can enter the conversation and that's already occurring in their mind, they're going to see you as the solution to what it is that they're looking for, because you're only brought in to speak because you're there to solve a challenge or a problem, or drive a new behavior, a new action as a result. And so what's really, I like this word here, is because I'm looking at some of the components that are part of your PFactor program, and you talk about accountability, and that this is what sets you apart, the ability to recognize how alert your audience is during your presentation. Explain a little bit, if you would, what you mean by the term accountability from that perspective.
When you're on stage, when you're or speaking to somebody. I always, we tend to talk about these large audiences, and I have the privilege, and I never ever forget how honored I am to be able to impact, just a few weeks ago, 9,000 people at once.
Right.
But again, down to smaller groups and so on and so forth. It is your responsibility to pay attention to them. Your responsibility, because they are there. They put their time, their capital, their energy, and sometimes their trust and their faith that you are going to be the solution to their challenge. And so if you're not paying attention to them, if you, and I use the word accountability, if you're not accountable for how you are going to affect those people, then it's going to be very, very easy to get lost within yourself, and you become the speaker, that guy or that woman on stage, and so on and so forth, and they check out, and they're not getting what they want. We are there to serve them.
That's right. And the audience will be able to tell every time.
It's amazing how, and sometimes they're polite, and sometimes they're not.
That is true.
Sometimes they'll sit there and watch you, and you'll see this. They're watching you. You're watching them go like this, and you got to be responsible. If you see that happening, sometimes that person went out drinking the night before, sometimes that person, whatever, but that's your responsibility to pay some attention to that person. And oftentimes that's a sign that you're not paying attention. So you got to be accountable in that way.
Yeah, and the audience will pick up if you're not picking up on that. They'll notice, they'll know that you're not genuinely engaged with them, and that you're really about yourself and not about them, which is important. They're
very intuitive, and they know when you're disturbed and in your head as well.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about energy controls, right? How do we maintain the energy in the room, right? What can we do if we see someone nodding off, or maybe they're starting to heckle, or you can just see they're getting fidgety? What are some of the things that you do to make sure that you re-enroll the audience, engage them back into the presentation?
Keep them guessing, keep them moving, keep you guessing, keep you moving.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is if you see that, if you start to witness that, physician, heal thyself. And obviously, it means that, in general, it means that you're not being as effective as you know you could be, should be, would be in that moment. So check yourself first. Have you been drolling on for some time now without giving them a break?
Yeah.
And again, I keep them guessing. And what that means is oftentimes I'll get people to stand up, give them some sort of command to do something. Grab your pen, write this down, do something. Keep them engaged, keep them moving at all times.
Right.
There shouldn't be, in my opinion, depending on the speech, depending on how long you're presenting to somebody, there shouldn't be any more than 10, 15 minutes before you're asking them to do something, raise their hand or yell something back, or, oftentimes in the big audiences, we'll have them get up out of their seats and move their bodies or something like that. But you got to be able to command that audience. You got to have that kind of rapport to get them to do stuff.
That's the key word right there, is the rapport.
Absolutely.
And when you have that rapport and that ability to command the room or command the audience, there are techniques in there in which we enroll the audience or build compliance within the audience. Because if you can control them physically, you can control them emotionally. And it can be as simple as raise your hand if this is you, right? Turn to your neighbor, give him a high five, say, that was awesome! Boom, right? And you're just enrolling the audience and getting them through, and you create a state change when you make a key point or an emotional point where you're really bringing the energy down.
I also believe in engaging them with themselves as well. Turn to your buddy and ask them this.
Yeah.
Turn to the person next to you and ask this.
Right.
Look around the room and find somebody that's this. Always remember, this is a living, breathing, growing thing that you're going in, and they're in this story. They're on that journey.
Exactly. And that's a key thing. Always have a mental checklist about every 7 minutes that someone's about tuning out, right? Part of that was strategic, this huge high five, just to make a state change even through the lens to get your energy up, because we know we've been on this presentation for some time and you've been with us on this journey. So we want to make sure you're rolling. We want to make sure that you're enjoying the process. So what about transformational language? Now, I love language. I love communication because it's our words that create our influence. It's our ability to create, communicate, and convert our offers that are in direct proportion to our ability to make an influence.
Right.
And so what are some of your keys in transformational language that you share in PFactor?
Like I said before, what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, those are key. Those are critical. And the words that we use, kind of giving you, and I want to be able to share some of the things right now that people are going to be getting, is that our words have the ability to change ours and other people's biochemical makeup. I can, as I always say to people, this is that I can cause you to be angry. I can cause you to make you want to get up and slap me because I said something terrible, or I can cause you to cry, I can cause you, and all those things just with my words.
Right.
So the blood that flows through our bodies as a result of those words will make that type of change. And we never necessarily know when I say animal to you or I say dog to you. You might be thinking about my French bulldog, but I'm talking about a Great Dane or something like that. Yeah. So to carefully choose your words that are going to impact people and set those words up. In other words, I might not have the same definition for that word for you, but I can set it up by telling you. I'll give you a perfect example. A set of words. When I say to people, and you know Jim Rohn.
Of course.
Jim was, he passed away about 3 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago. And I had the opportunity to ask Jim one time. I said, Jim, and I had known Jim for many, many years. And I asked him, I said, Jim, what is personal development? And here's the guy. This is Jim Rohn. In case you don't know, Jim Rohn is the father of personal development.
Pretty much the father, yes.
And I said, Jim, and I wasn't doing it to stump him. I wanted to know his answer. And I'm going to exaggerate when I do this. Jim Rohn said, well, young man, personal development is developing yourself to be the best you can possibly be, or some answer like that. And it was a brilliant answer. But my point is, I was watching him guess at it. I'm exaggerating it, rolling my eyes and things like that, but I was watching him guess at it, which means he didn't necessarily have the words to express exactly what he meant. So I always say this, to answer your question, with regard to transformational language, you can have all the words that you want, but as long as you tell those people what this word means. I always call it the lowest common denominator, so we can always on the same page. So one of the things, and even that, I'll say, here's what personal development is. It's rehearsing exactly whom you wish to be, and then explain that to people. And so my language in saying that, I've chosen these words to do this, but I put those words in people. Obviously, we've got a myriad of words that people associate with and so on and so forth. But I choose the words to cause them to feel a certain way, cause them to be happy, cause them to be sad. Instead of saying problem, I'll use challenge, or instead of saying, here I am talking to the master as well. We were just earlier, just so you know, I was learning so much from this guy, it's ridiculous. I'm really excited to learn more. And you were talking about instead of telling somebody I'm going to pitch you, I'm going to invite you, and those types of things.
And that's a perfect segue, because what we want to be able to do is actually extend an invitation to you, because we want you to be able to not only command any room, anytime, anywhere, but we also want you to be able to do it in a way that invites pursuit, that can take your speaking engagements from what I call compliments to actual clients, and how you can actually do that and parlay one opportunity into many. And I'm an eternal student, and if you've been following any of my work, you know I like to surround myself with the best. Brian Tracy, arguably one of the best public speakers in the world, has been around for over 40 years, is my personal friend and mentor. I've worked with Darren Hardy, Brendan Burchard, Mike Koenigs, Lisa Sasevich, and so forth and so on. And now, of course, here with Joseph McClendon, because we are all eternal students. And I know one of the key things that really moved the needle for me was to be able to invest in myself, to be able to grow and develop my skills. Because we can all get better. There's not a video I don't watch. I'll probably watch this replay and go, man, God, did I really say that? Did I just do that? And because we're human beings, it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about being authentic and finding your true voice, but following a structure and a formula, because I know if this doctor can reinvent his career and start completely over from scratch and find a voice and find a message, then I know that you can. And so what we want to do is be able to extend an invitation about an upcoming event, which I'm honored to be speaking at. I'm so honored to be sharing the stage with you. And it's going to be here in California, and we're going to talk about that here in just a moment, but I want to stress a key point. Before I do and extend this invitation, I want you to pay attention to this process, because what we're going to actually do is teach you while we extend that invitation, because I want you to visualize yourself being able to follow this structure and follow this process in a way that's authentic, that's non-salesy, in a way that allows your ideal clients to say yes, to be able to move forward through the body of work. So we're going to continue to teach you as we extend this while we share our invitation with you moving forward. So we've got this incredible event coming up here in Tustin, California, April 22nd through the 24th, called the PFactor Training. So I know the audience would love to hear more about your proven success. I mean, think about 4.5 million people that he has already spoken to, years of experience, 25 years in the field, and he's learned from one of the best in the world, and Tony Robbins. He's put together all of that knowledge into this program. What are some of the things that they can expect by attending this event?
Well, first off, we call it the P-Factor, and thank you for the kind words, and
Absolutely.
I can say the same thing about you. The P-Factor, my brand is factoring, and factoring in its purest sense is just multiplying. And so everybody, as I said before, everybody we already present. So what I'm here to do is to help you multiply, to expand that to the point that we get the results that you're talking about,
right,
to cause them to take action. It's presentation to get them to do something, if you will. Nothing happens unless it gets done. So the P-Factor is a 3-day event. And by the way, I didn't say this. I've done this, you know, I've had the privilege of doing this abroad for many, many years, to large audiences and small audiences and corporate for their sales forces, if you will, and management teams and things like that. And I wanted to kind of condense it down into something that everybody can use. So the P-Factor is a 3-day event, and in that event, we cover 3 things. Number 1, as we talked about before, the anatomy of what your presentation is and what a presentation is, and from start to finish, all of the elements, from point A to point B, and that means point A, just like I said before, from the time that you decide to take on the event. We actually start a conversation inside our heads that will last months, if you will, before you hit that event. And how you start that conversation, from the time you do that till the time that you're right before you go on stage, till the time that you're on stage, to the time that you leave that stage. Everything is very well orchestrated in such a simple way that people get it and they go, I didn't even think of it that way, and of course I can do that. So day number 1 is that. We're going to go over the anatomy of a presentation, and then show people how they can, how when they're on that stage, their influence, their impact on those people to go on that journey with us. That's day number 1. Oversimplifying everything. But and then day number 2 is helping you as an individual find your voice, find your stage presence, find your message, if you will. It's individual for everybody. And then when they get that, and that's, it's not a lengthy process, but it is a process that you only have to do once, because when you get it, it's like riding a bicycle, and it's the experience. And then day number 3, everybody is going to speak. I always say, what good is it going to be me just teaching you something if you're not going to use it? You know, so everybody at some point and in whatever form is going to get the opportunity to speak and deliver their message and get A, feedback, and B, improve that and distill it down to and adjust it to the place that it is absolutely the thing that they not only feel good about, but their audience feels good about it as well.
And that's such a key component as you think about being able to create a safe room
Mm-hmm.
and an environment for you to help you to get clear on your message, get clear on your teaching points, get clear on you, on your personality and your style, so you can find that authentic voice following a proven structure and a formula, and be able to do it in a safe environment, so that when you do have that opportunity to speak, when you graduate from this event, that it will only exponentially grow from there.
And I love what you just said there with regard to your authentic self, because let's face it, most people are going to deal with stage fright, nervousness on stage, and all those things, and we're going to eliminate those stuff. There's going to be a point in the workshop, and this is actually my favorite part of the workshop, and it's not something I'm going to do to you. It's a skill that I'm going to give you, show you how to do it. Then we're going to do it right there. And I'd say this to you now as we invite you to this. Bring me your worst nightmare, your worst memory, your worst experience, the self-talk, all the stuff that you have, because at some point during that event, you're not going to be able to feel it. At some point, you're going to go, whoa, I can't feel that. And your brain goes to the other place, the place that you want to be. And again, it's not going to be something I do to you. It's something we're going to learn together. You're going to do it. And now you have that tool in your pocket to not just use when you need it, but to make it global so it happens automatically inside of you.
I like that, because I know for me, I'm not going to lie, I still get nervous in front of every talk that I do, and how to channel that and use that. So I'm really looking forward to learning that.
I can help you, Doc. I can help you.
I love it, because we want to be able to channel that energy and be able to use it to our advantage, rather than it work against us and our own voice and our own message. Now, you've done this abroad for many years, correct? And you're now bringing this here to the United States.
Yeah, for a couple reasons. Number one, you know, I'm not crazy about getting on another airplane, quite honestly. I do that enough. And so we're doing this here, and it's time, you know, that we do it for everybody, if you will. There's specialized audiences that I do it over there, and it's always through a promoter, and it's always a way, it's always something that has been set up by somebody else. So I don't necessarily have control of how that's going to flow. So here we're doing it here. It's going to be intimate. It's not going to be that many people. It's going to be intimate. It's going to be close. And it's going to be something that, again, it's not something you come and learn and just to learn. Knowledge isn't power. Knowledge is only potential power. It's something you're going to get a result there, and it's something you're going to take into the world and use.
Yeah. And let me ask you a question. We can go into all the features of the program, and I think by now we know this is a proven formula and a structure that's worked, that's built a very successful career. I want to know, and I'm sure the audience might be wondering, why do you do what you do? What's the big why for you?
Well, which is on day number 2, we find out what your why is, and this is critical. I'm glad you asked. I'll try not to get emotional about this. When I was 19 years old, I was homeless. I lived in a cardboard box not too far from here, a place called Lancaster, California. And I wasn't there because, you know, I came from a broken or a bad home or anything like that. I was there because I had no certainty and confidence in myself. When I was 17, 3 grown men tried to take my life because of the color of my skin. And,
I can't even imagine.
And it destroyed me. It destroyed my self-esteem. It destroyed my self-worth. I'm intellectualizing about it now, Doc, but at the time, I felt that if these people could do that, if somebody could do that to me, then that means I'm worthless. And that stayed with me. And down that downward spiral. But what changed my life was a kind gentleman, somebody I didn't know, that didn't have to do this, gave me a book and insisted that I read it. The book was Think and Grow Rich.
One of the best.
One of the best. And I read the book. Very long story short, it changed my life. And literally from that point forward, and I learned about personal development, and I learned about how I could predetermine my steps and where I'm going to go and what's going to happen, and I could change how I felt. And then and it was all about me, by the way, because I'm 19 years old, and when you're 19, it's all about you.
Yeah, of course.
But when I went back to this gentleman and I said, you know, how do I repay you? How do I give back to you? Because that's the way I was raised. What he said to me was, how you repay me is that you do the same that I've done for you for as many people as you possibly can for the rest of your life. Now, at 19 years old, that's not necessarily what I wanted to hear, and I didn't get it right away. But as time went on and I started to experience how my words and my experiences and being able to move people change their lives, that's what fills me up. And that's why I do what I do. To this day, it's not my driver, it's not my pusher, it's my puller. And everybody has, you may not know what it is right now, but that's part of what we do, is help you find out what your why is. That's what pulls you. I say, instead of being dragged, kicking and screaming from your past, how about being gently pulled into your future?
Right.
That's when people connect.
I love that, not being a driver, but being a puller.
Yeah.
And gosh, God bless you for sharing that story and the bravery and the courage to persevere and now share your voice and your message in such a huge way.
Well, thank you.
Well, without going any further with this opportunity, it's really an unprecedented opportunity because you've used this program internationally now for many years and you're bringing it here to the United States, and you've previously sold this program for well over $4,500 or so for the same 3-day program or
Actually,
event.
it was only 2 days.
It was only 2 days then.
Right.
So the value has even gone up even more. And I want you to ask yourself a couple of key questions here as you make a decision. And either way, we hope that you make a decision. We know what the benefit of that decision is when you say yes to yourself and the opportunity to find that voice, your story, and be able to connect it in a way to move and inspire audiences. So the question you really need to ask yourself is if only this program allowed you to make a bigger difference, if only this program allowed you to get more clear and more certain and overcome any fear and doubt, would it be worth it? If only this program allowed you to get on the big stages and maybe get those keynotes and become that speaker that you want to be, or even just become that entrepreneur that uses your voice to be able to attract clients on demand and live a life of more freedom, would it be worth it? Honestly, this program is truly priceless, and we know if you say yes to this opportunity, we're going to actually extend an unprecedented opportunity to join the PFactor, join Joseph and myself at the upcoming PFactor event, and we'll be sharing not only his secrets, but the secrets that I have found in Amplify Your Talk to help you to take a presentation that both not only serves the audience, because it's so important, but then turns them from interested to invested on the spot to be able to move them forward through the body of work. It's going to be the most comprehensive speaker training program that you'll find this year, bar none. And so what we would love to do is extend an invitation. You'll find a button somewhere along with this video, or you can go to ultimatepfactor.com/register, and you'll see an event special where we're going to actually reduce the investment to only $19.97 for one single payment. It's truly an unprecedented value when you think about the opportunity, but as you know, and if you've seen me present before, you know we're going to make it sweeter, right?
Yeah. Yes.
We're going to make this an absolute no-brainer. Now, if you would like to invest in the payment options, we do have a 3-pay option available for you as well, only $747 each, that would allow you to attend, honestly, this world-class event. Now, before I go into some of the amplifiers or the bonuses of this program, we know there's some VIPs out there that really want to take this experience to the next level. Do you want to share with them what the VIP experience will be like for this event?
Sure, and we call it VIP. Everybody's important, but this is, as you said, there's some people that want a higher level, if you will.
Yes.
And a couple things. Number one, I'm going to do, I didn't say this in the very beginning, I said by profession, I'm a psychologist, but by trade, I'm what's called an ultimate performance specialist. And all that means is through seminars and workshops and live interventions and one-on-one coaching, I help people get the very best out of themselves. And I work with Academy Award-winning movie stars and Grammy winners and sports figures and even some royalty. And so you might look at that as kind of a high-end coach. And I share that with you, obviously not to brag or to boast, but that is one of the benefits of being a VIP is you and I are going to spend at least 1/2 hour together, personally together. Second thing is at the event, obviously, you're going to have preferred or seating that is ideal, as well as we're going to have a meal together. And gosh, I think at that event we're not giving away the Tesla ride anymore, are we? No. At another event, you get to ride in my new Tesla. But we're not doing that this time.
Yeah, so when you look at the VIP experience, to have that preferential treatment, to have those preferred meals, and 1/2 hour of your time, which is truly invaluable to be able to work on your voice and your message with the man himself, can be truly worth the entire admission of the program in and of itself.
And by the way, sorry to cut you off, that 1/2 hour is not at the event. You get to go away and then and then think about, okay, what is it that I want this coaching on? It doesn't even have to be PFactor. It can be anything that you want.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because we've also got something in the bonuses here that we want to share with you to help bridge the gap between now and the event, because we want to get you started with your effectiveness right away. And so before I do that, what is the VIP registration? Well, if you do the VIP registration, it's only $27.95 for a single pay, or you can do a 3-pay of $9.69. You'll find all the information when you click the button that's somewhere associated with this video, or go to ultimatepfactor.com/register, and you'll find out all the information, everything that the program includes, to really help you to get started out there to make a bigger difference. Now, to sweeten the pot a little bit, to really help you to move the needle in moving forward, for those of you that are still on the fence, as if you possibly could be at this point, all pun intended here, is that we're going to provide you online access to the PFactor. And so give us a quick synopsis of what they're going to get when they enroll today and reserve their seat for the PFactor event.
Sure. First off, all the knowledge in the world is of little good if you don't do something with it. And whatever you do in your life, the spoils go to those that do, not those that just want and desire. They go to those that do. And more specifically, those that do at a higher level than the average. Because there are a lot of people out there that want to lose weight, or they want to start a business, or they want to, have a better relationship, and so on and so forth. And they go about it the way ordinary people go about it. But the people that have the most success in anything at all are the people that are the most effective at doing that. Take action. Effective at that very specific skill of whatever they're doing, they're building, or whatever they are. And that effectiveness is something that we all have. And the PFactor is multiplying it again. I'll give the example that I always love to use, and that is this. When I was a kid, I was a terrible student. You and I talked about this before. I was awful. And I wasn't such a great kid to my parents as well. I mean, I look at it now, being a father, and I look at it now and I think, oh my goodness, I didn't do my homework, I didn't do my chores, I procrastinated, and all of those things. Getting me up in the morning, Doc, was like pulling teeth. I hated to get up in the morning, and I just wouldn't do it. And I can remember my poor parents just, agonizing, over this kid. What have we done here? But I grew up in Hawaii. My father was military, and I grew up in Hawaii, and I loved to fish. I loved to go fishing. And if you told me that I was going to get to go fishing tomorrow morning, I'd get all my chores done, I'd do my homework, and I'd do all those things, which meant I was very, very effective at getting those things done. So what the PFactor is to find out where you are the most effective in whatever it is in your life, and to take that emotion, the skill of being able to do the things that you do, and move it from where you are effective into the areas that you're not effective. And so the PFactor, and it's one of the things, as soon as you enroll, you're going to be getting this PFactor, and it's to, as you said, bridge the gap between now and when I see you, so that when you show up, or when we see you. And by the way, I'm so excited that he's going to be there as well. It's one of the things I'm looking most forward to, because I get to learn more as well. And this guy is a real powerhouse. So the PFactor is, again, you'll get it ahead of time, and it's a process, a course that you're going to go through step by step, so that by the time we show up, we see each other, we meet each other, you're already on fire, and it branches out into other areas of your life as well.
No, this is great, and thank you for that. I'm honored to be sharing the platform with you and to be able to walk through this experience. And so not only do you get access to the PFactor program that'll help you to bridge that gap, but we're also going to provide access to, once you graduate from the event, you'll have an online community that they'll be able to participate in, so they can continue the conversation. And in addition to that, you get a copy of his book. And for those of you who act, while this opportunity, this special is now available, which we're only extending and through till Sunday night, because after that, this offer will disappear, and it will be back at $4,500 for this program. And I promise you, even if you do wait, it will still be worth it at that price. It's just a matter of, do you want to take advantage of the savings now, or do you want to invest more later? Because either way, pioneering the road to speaking success can be expensive. And when you try to figure it out on your own, and you make all the mistakes that we have made, and you learn those lessons, you could really set yourself back years, where we can accelerate that success and help you do that literally this year.
This is a result of, probably between the two of us, we got 50 years of experience.
Crazy.
And one of the things that you mentioned earlier is investing in yourself and doing something that I call going further, faster. Yeah, I got to ask you this question. Do you want what you want sooner rather than later? The answer is always a resounding yes. And the only way to do that, going to the top of what you talked about before, it's got to be training. It's got to be that you have to learn it from somebody that's already doing it and get it from the best. Get it from the best.
The best, right, absolutely. And so what we'll do for that fast action bonus is we'll send you a copy of his book, Awesome Sauce, an autographed copy by the man himself. And so we have basically put this entire program together, and we're going to reverse the risk on this program, right? You stand behind this,
absolutely,
yes?
Absolutely.
And so we're going to offer a complete money-back guarantee on this program. Everything is secure. The order forms are secure. Rest assured that all of your information will be safe, because we don't like our information being thrown out there in any way. And so we respect you, and we respect your investment in yourself today. So click the button that's associated with this video, or head on over to ultimatepfactor.com/register. Take advantage of this opportunity before the clock strikes midnight on Sunday. Take advantage of not only the ticket to the live event, but all of the bonuses, which include the fast action bonus of the signed book. You'll also get access to the PFactor right away, the private online community after the event, and to sweeten the pot, I'm going to also throw in a ticket for those of you who invest to my upcoming event in September 22nd through the 24th. Will you please?
Yes!
Absolutely.
Yes.
He is coming. We've already confirmed it. So that is the Amplify Your Talk live event on how to create a trademark talk that both serves and sells, to give you really the most well-rounded training. And so you'll get a bonus ticket to that event as well. And for those of you who register, I'll make sure you get all of the details. So do you have any final words that you would like to share with the audience?
I do. And it's an old saying, if you will, and that is that life is exactly what you dare to make it, and fortune favors the bold. And in whatever you do, the trick to life truly is to figure out how to boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. You're on this call, you're on this webinar with us right now, and you're talking because you want more. Everybody wants more. The key is to boldly step up and go get it. Because as you do, everything around you changes. You change, the world changes around you, and the world treats you differently. So boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. And I really thank you and appreciate you for who you are, what you're going to teach people, what you're going to share with people, and for this opportunity to do this with you.
Yeah, well, thank you, and likewise. And thank you for investing in your time with us here today. You've watched this entire presentation. You know right now that you want to become a better speaker, a better presenter. You know that this is an incredible value. So go ahead and click the button, or go to ultimatepfactor.com/register, reserve your seat, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the event.
See you there.
Take care.